Hello, dear Turkey watchers. You are at Real Turkey channel, and I'm Atilla Yeşilara. Today, I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is Fitch rating agency upgraded Turkey one notch to B plus, and changed the outlook from neutral to positive. Bad news: Turkey is heading towards another currency crisis. If I'll tell you when it might happen or under what conditions it might happen. Why did I bring these two subjects together? Well, simple. While a rating upgrade is not necessarily blazing positive commentary for a nation, it is interesting that the currency turmoil, the increased volatility or demand for FX in Turkey continued despite the Fitch announcement. So we also need to understand what Fitch said and why, despite modestly positive comments and despite no political crises in the horizon, Turkish lira is once again extremely on shaky ground. Let's start with Fitch. It wasn't anticipated. It was widely anticipated that Fitch would change Turkey's outlook from neutral to positive. It wasn't anticipated because for a rating agency to increase the rating of a country which is at junk level right before the elections, which might change the course of economic policy, is a very brave call. Fitch has essentially, faced bullets and criticism by doing so, and when doing so, it makes specific reference that it does not expect economic policy to change after the elections. Can it? See my prior video when I talked about Turkish local elections and briefly at the end how the outcome might affect Mehmet Simsek's career prospects, i.e. economic policy. What else does Fitch say? Well, it's a report what we call boilerplate, in the sense that the usual platitudes, more transparent economic management, return to orthodox policies, rebalancing of demand from domestic to international sources, i.e. lower current account deficit, and the determined effort to tighten monetary policy to combat inflation. All of these things are good, none very novel or controversial. Is it important? Psychologically, yes, because nobody expected it. But from a flow of funds or foreign investment purpose, no, not really. Usually, well, first of all, Turkey is rated 4, 5, and 6 notches below investment grade by Fitch, S&P, and Moody's. Usually, reaction to a rating change occurs when a country or a company is promoted from sub-investment to investment grade, or vice versa. This is not the case for Turkey. I don't think there are too many fund managers out there who would say, oh wow, Fitch increased Turkey's credit rating, let's go invest into the country. Nevertheless, we should also take note of what economy czar Mehmet Simsek said afterwards. He said, I expect more rating changes, which I believe is true. I think rating agencies always treat Turkey more harshly than other countries for good reasons. Because anytime they increase Turkey's rating, Turkey does something extremely stupid and they look bad in front of their subscribers. It started in 1994 when Turkey first received her first ever investment grade rating, when Mrs. Tansu Çiller was prime minister. 3 minutes later, we had a currency crisis. The same thing happened in 2012 or 2013, I'm not so sure, when I think all three rating agencies in succession increased Turkey to investment grade. Then we had the Gezi Park uprisings, the taper tantrum, and since then Turkey's economic performance deteriorated substantially, and all of these three rating agencies had to eat humble pie. So as a result, once bitten, twice wary, or whatever the expression is, they are extremely cautious in saying positive things about Turkey. But yeah, I think Mehmet Simsek is correct. If he stays in his position after the election. Yes, he will. If he is given authority to pursue a tighter austerity program, more rating increases will follow. Will he be able to do so? I think so. And this transitions us to our second subject, the currency turmoil. Turkish currency was almost for 9 months under the complete control of central bank. It was under what we call a controlled float, managed float, or crawling peg, in the sense that central bank did allow the Turkish lira to depreciate against euro and dollar, but only at a limited amount. If the rate of depreciation exceeded their level, they intervened one way or other. The crawling peg, or managed float, was instituted because central bank wisely concluded that one way to reduce inflationary pressures, cost inflation pressures, is to increase the real value of the Turkish lira. In other words, to allow the Turkish lira to depreciate at a lower rate than prevailing inflation. This way, we avoid an inflation devaluation spiral, and the low rate of currency depreciation acts as a brake on inflationary pressures as well as expectations to some extent. This worked until January or so. In January, we have seen the first signs of increased FX demand, which again wasn't unusual because central bank was also trying to engineer a smooth exit from FX-protected deposit scheme towards regular deposits. You can find more information on FX-protected deposit scheme, which was a harebrained scheme invented 3 years ago in December when Turkey was really at the threshold, at the throes of a currency crisis. The idea is you convert your FX deposits to FX-protected deposit scheme, which is held in Turkish lira, but its dollar value is guaranteed by the central bank and by the treasury. As a result, we have more than $100 billion in this FX-protected deposit scheme, which is really a time bomb or a ticking bomb, simply because if everyone demanded their hard currency, there was no way for the central bank or the treasury to find that much currency. Now, with Mehmet Simsek coming to power, the central bank and the budget authority are opening the way for this orderly exit from the deposit accounts, and it's understood that some of the funds that come out of there will turn into hard currency. That was expected, that was anticipated, though suddenly the ratio of conversion to hard currency rather than TL increased. Why? Well, inflation overshot expectations. Now, the difference between expected inflation and the official inflation as announced by Turkstat is marginal, about 1 percentage point. If you look at core inflation indicators, it is slightly higher, but no one in Turkey trusts the numbers published by the statistics agency. Perceived inflation could be 10 to 30 percentage points higher than the official inflation data. This makes sense. If you ask me what my inflation expectations are, I would just close my eyes, look at my rent, look at my electricity and gas bills, look at how much gas costs for my car, and I'll tell you, well, inflation based on these three factors is X. And all of these three are increasing much faster than the average price of goods and services in Turkey. So the average person does indeed, in fact, in terms of rent, suffer much more severely from inflation. So, you have this inflationary overshoot, but TL deposit rates are not increasing. Not because the central bank is not working hard to have them increased, but since there is no loan demand in the country, banks don't need these expensive deposits. So they are shooing away TL deposits. In other words, the monetary tightening engineered by the central bank is not flowing through to higher deposit rates. As a result, people are like, wow, I mean, my monthly inflation is 6%. The bank is offering me at most 4% in TL terms. Why would I stay in TL terms? I would spend my money, which is happening, or I would stay in hard currency. At least it's devaluation proof. And I think the last stage, when in March, these conversions to FX accelerated, is driven by rumors of Mehmet Simsek being fired after the elections. I heard these rumors. They're always present. We also know that the AKP constituencies, Erdogan's crony industrialists, merchants, and the poor people don't like Mehmet Simsek. They want to go back to the good old days of almost interest-free loans, free access to credit, and a currency artificially suppressed. But obviously, this is not going to happen again. I have no indication that Mehmet Simsek is going to be fired. Clearly, if you watch my videos or if you follow Turkey, you know that Erdogan is as unpredictable as Trump. He could change his mind tomorrow, and I wouldn't even know why. He wouldn't tell anyone. We could wake up one morning and read in the official gazette that Mr. Mehmet Simsek has been excused or pardoned from his duties. But given that, I don't think that's likely, simply because in his speeches concerning or focusing on the economy, Erdogan in the last 3 months has essentially parroted what Mehmet Simsek has said. So it seems like he has a personal investment into this economic stabilization program, and he does, even though not very directly, does take responsibility for the fate of this program. And I think his current advisors, which probably includes one of his son-in-laws, Selçuk Bayraktar, the man in charge of Turkey's drone miracle, understand why this program is not delivering results on the inflation front. It's largely Erdogan's fault, simply because he's spending too much to win the 31st of March local elections. Nevertheless, one way or other, it's very clear that the current deposit rates and current central bank policy rate will simply not be able to slow down inflation. Inflation is currently 66% at CPI level. It's probably going to peak at 75%. There is no way it's going to come anywhere near central bank's year-end guidance of 36%, or its upper band 42%, 50%, and I'm being really generous and optimistic here. It could get worse simply because Erdogan, his candidates are behind the CHP incumbents in 3 major cities, Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, and he has to win these local elections for reasons I've explained in the previous video. So he keeps spending more, and the more he spends, the more income people have, the more they spend. You have this boost or boom in domestic demand, which obviously increases inflationary pressures. Demand is fairly elastic. If the central bank prints money or the budget spending increases, it can increase indefinitely, whereas every country's capacity to supply the goods and services is limited, i.e. higher demand than supply, prices go up. Therefore, Turkey could face a currency crisis even if Erdogan wins the elections and Mehmet Simsek stays in his post, unless he is given the mandate, or Fatih Karahan, the central bank governor, is given the mandate. Simsek and Fatih Karahan work very closely and cooperate to raise interest rates to a level that will have an impact on the domestic demand by reducing on inflation by reducing domestic demand. B, incentivize savers to hold TL rather than FX deposits. Otherwise, simply relying on a slow rate of currency depreciation to reduce inflation is not going to work. Inflationary pressures are rampant. Inflationary expectations are as sticky as molasses, so it's not going to work. Will that happen? Well, it's interesting. On Monday, Deutsche Bank, which is a global investment bank which knows Turkey fairly well, came out with this call stating that the central bank in its March Monetary Policy Council meeting will raise interest rates by 500 basis points. On Tuesday, Bank of America Merrill Lynch said central bank could raise interest rates by, I think, 300 to 400 basis points in April, though it's not its base case scenario. Why is this important? Investment banks always make bold calls and they turn out to be wrong. This is true. But in Turkey's context, knowing Mr. Erdogan's aversion to rate hikes, to come out and say, right a couple of days before the elections, central bank will raise interest rates suggests these investment banks may have held conversations with names familiar with Mr. Erdogan's thinking or with Mr. Mehmet Simsek's thinking or with major commercial banks and have found out that, yes, maybe the Erdogan team and Mehmet Simsek team are really negotiating on a rate hike. Obviously, if this happens, it will immediately stop currency turmoil, not because even a 500 basis point rate hike would suffice to turn the interest rate on TL deposit positives, but it will make a very definitive statement that Erdogan doesn't really care about limiting interest rates anymore, and after the elections, more will come. So psychologically, it's very important. It could not only cause higher rate of conversion from FX to TL deposits or from FX protected security deposit scheme to TL deposit, also could bring in, obviously, larger amounts of foreign financial investment, which would boost central bank reserves and reduce expectations of currency turmoil. Will it happen? I doubt it. Maybe there are discussions, but it would be extremely bold for Mr. Erdogan to allow a rate hike a couple of days before the elections. But I think after the elections, what I see evidence on the ground suggests that Mehmet Simsek will be able to convince Mr. Erdogan to let his hands, to untie his hands, Fatih Karahan's hands, to raise interest rates. So I'm really not very worried about another currency crisis in Turkey. But I'm the only one who thinks so. I don't know if you watch Turkish language YouTube videos, perhaps with subtitles. I'm the only one who says there is not going to be a currency crisis in this country. And usually I'm wrong, I should admit that. If rates are not increased, or if for one reason or other, Mr. Mehmet Simsek is sacked, Turkey will face a currency crisis. Probably there will be just tremors in the summer when tourism revenues boost central bank coffers and it can sell as much hard currency as needed to stabilize the exchange rate. But come winter, when Turkey's energy import bill rises massively, the bitter end will be with us. So this is the story about Fitch and Turkey's currency turmoil. The first, positive, not very important. The second, scary, but probably not lethal. Thank you very much for watching Real Turkey channel videos. Very modest traffic, but some comments which I enjoy, even the trolls. In fact, I enjoy trolls more. So keep those comments coming, subscribe, and as importantly, if you know people who are interested in Turkey, recommend my videos to them. Perhaps it could be slightly enlightening. Have a good day.